And getting it set to go live. All right, there we go. Took a moment with OBS this morning, and I wasn't late. I still had a minute left. All right, let's check this one more time. Make sure that it says the stream is good. Excellent connection. All right. So here we go, everybody. Good morning and welcome to the channel. As always, thanks for stopping by and hanging out for a few. My name is Rich Charpentier, and I'm the channel host. And more likely than not, when you come to this channel, you're going to be here for drones and 360 images, and of course, building your own small drone imaging business. So that's what we talk about here regularly. Just to let you know, yesterday we had another Zoom conference call with the folks on our Patreon channel. Really good one and a fun one. We usually do those a little longer and a little more interaction with folks since we're using Zoom. So if you're interested in coming here several times a month to have conversations with other drone operators building their businesses, and you've got questions about building your own business or the tools to use, check out our Patreon channel. It's right down in the lower right corner. And also our Teachable channel is down there as well, az-drone.teachable.com. So we've got some new warnings today. I'm just going to double check that everything says that it's working. And there we go. We'll close OBS down. And I'm going to believe that we're all set and we're live. So this weekend, taking a look at the forecast, got me a little nervous about flying this week. Not really nervous, but there is a point when the heat becomes excessive enough to where I would suggest foregoing flying your drone during those temperatures. So I pulled up a couple of screenshots this morning off the iPhone just to let you know we're coming into summer here in Arizona. Now we're in Prescott, Arizona, so we're over a mile high, so we get some cooler temperatures compared to Phoenix and Tucson, of course. And I wanted to show you the excessive heat warnings that we've got for today. So for Prescott area, we're looking at 98 degrees Fahrenheit. Phoenix, 116. See, our elevation does make a big difference. And Tucson, 111 degrees Fahrenheit. So how hot is too hot to fly? Well, if you've been a long-term follower on this channel, you know that I've had some battery issues with my Mavic 2 Pro over the past year and a half or so. Batteries that, haven't been used for 2 years. Some of them hadn't even been used for 1 year, and they started swelling during flights and things. And one thing you have to watch out for is that kind of swelling that's dangerous, and you don't want to blow up one of your lithium-ion batteries. So I've retired several batteries, brought in some new batteries, but whenever I'm out doing flights for clients, I am always checking when I bring the drone back in. I'm checking that drone temperature, I'm feeling how the casing feels and where the hot spots are. And sometimes when you get the hotter days, the whole drone body can be really hot to the touch. So I've experienced that. So this week, if we're going to be doing any flying, it's going to be most likely earlier in the mornings. I don't want to be out for the 100-degree temperatures at all. So, what's safe, what's not safe? There's a lot of different articles out there. Let's go ahead and minimize this one. And I've got one article from Drone DJ pulled up. Now, we probably talked about this one last year if you're a long-term follower as well, because every year I seem to do a little PSA on, hey, watch those temperatures. So here we are on Drone DJ, and they've got a really nice article here. So it's Drone DJ from 2019. If you want to go over to their website and check out the article, and it's drones high temperature don't mix. But I wanted to pull this one up because he's got a nice little list here. So the DJI Mavic 2, that's one of my drones. I've also got the DJI Mavic as well. But so here's the temperature ranges. So this is degrees Fahrenheit for those of us in the US. So DJI Mavic 2, 14 degrees, so below freezing, up to 104. Well, hey, we're getting close to 104. And let's take a look again here. 116 down in Phoenix today. So this is not unusual. This is a desert state. But I want other drone operators to be aware of this as well, because even back in New Hampshire, we saw heat waves now and again that really pushed the envelope as to uncomfortable, especially with a lot of humidity back in New Hampshire. So Mavic Mini, 32 degrees to 104. The Mavic Air, 32 to 104. So basically freezing up to 104 degrees, it seems. So seeing our temperatures approaching 104 degrees here in Prescott and definitely surpassing 104 down in the valley and down in the Tucson area. Those midday flights, I'm just not going to be doing those. So when clients get in touch this week, I'll be letting them know is, can we do earlier morning flights? Can we achieve what you need? Or should we wait a little bit to see what's going on with the temperatures? So there we go. That's the nice little chart. Now, one thing that I always do keep in mind, all of my flights, I feed back to air data when I'm done with the flight. So I just want to jump over to air data. I've talked about air data before. If you're new to operating drones and you're just getting into it, whether it's a hobby or you're trying to make some commercial work out of it, I do recommend air data. They're not a sponsor of this channel, but I use them for tracking my own drone flights. And one of the things that they also let me know about, we get a lot of flight information off of our drones. So some of that flight information is hottest battery temperature. So I'm looking at all my drones here. And so the hottest battery temperature was 134.4 degrees. And so they've got their little chart here, and that chart says it's cooking. I can actually go look at recent flights, and on my recent flights, we have my overview. We've got the drone name, flight time for that particular flight. This was doing some raw land at a real estate location. But we'll notice that we had 122 degrees Fahrenheit battery temperature. Let's check the next one. And so this flight, same area, just down the road for another raw land location. We were looking at a max battery temp of 107. And so that was a little earlier in the morning. And let's bop down to, let me see, what time was that? 8:42 a.m. And here, 107 degrees for the max battery temperature. So 107, and then jumping up to 122 when we moved locations and we were still out for a little more of the day. So if you don't have air data, you might want to look into it. I think they still do a free trial, and it's a great way to keep track of your drones. It's a great way to keep track of the number of your flights, your battery cycle times, and a lot of other information and reminders and notifications of things that you should update. So I wanted to share that one with you, air data, so that you could see, hey, I can find out what my battery temperature was. Now, while we're starting to have this insane heat, I'm also regularly checking over in SkyVector, especially prior to going out and doing any flights for clients. I go over to SkyVector because I do want to check out the TFRs. Just a few weeks ago in Baghdad, Arizona, there was a fire over in that area. Baghdad is not too far from us, and the fires in the state, depending on the winds, could come from that area over to this area. So before I go out and do these client flights and I'm looking at the temperatures that I'm going to be seeing for the day, I also want to see if there are any temporary flight restrictions due to fires or any other hazards. And pulling it up this morning, we do have, let's see here, this particular one is to provide a safe environment for firefighting operations. So we do have something going on over toward the Sedona area. So that's a good thing to check this out. But also one of the other reasons that I do want to pay attention, to the heat index and everything is because of the locations that I'm flying. So if you do have an incident with a lithium-ion battery and the lithium-ion battery does end up burning up, those lithium battery fires are not something to be messed with. They're not something to be taken lightly. And I am aware of at least one other drone, I think it was a year and a half or 2 years ago, that did start a small fire because of a damaged battery. That fire was contained pretty quickly. But when we're looking at the locations that I'm doing my flights, let's pull something up here from a recent client setup. We're still working through the edits on this, but I figured I'd take you along for a little bit of a video. New construction site for a client right before they were doing their concrete pour. What I want you to pay attention to is not the location and actually not the building and not the building activity. What I want you to pay attention to is what's going on surrounding this particular build site. What's going on here is a lot of junipers, a lot of scrub brush, some smaller white pines and things as well, and very, very dry circumstances. Now, while we had some amazing snowfall over this winter and, a couple of brutal snowstorms here, still not enough moisture to really deal with the dry that we deal with here in Arizona. So fire warnings and fire hazards are always something that we need to pay attention to. And if we need to avoid flying in those higher temperatures for safety reasons, I would suggest go ahead and do that. You can have a conversation with your clients, see about doing earlier morning stuff, or see about doing late afternoon stuff when things are cooling down. But when we're getting to those excessive temperatures and we're flying in super dry places like this, my recommendation is to not be flying during those extreme temperatures. So additionally, we can see on this video right now that they're just getting that concrete pour in, and this particular video that we were setting up for a client finishes out with that concrete finishing. So we're probably going to be going back out there one of the upcoming mornings, probably Wednesday or Thursday, to see some things starting to go up, potentially some framing going on as well. So we're going to be doing some time lapses. All of these flight routes have been saved, of course, on Litchi, and the orbit missions have been saved on Litchi as well for this particular project. We've got another project that we're doing, and when that project picks up again, we'll be following that one a little more, and we're going to be using Drone Harmony for that particular one. So here's our follow-up flight for them, and I did do this as an earlier morning flight, so I think maybe I was out there around 8:30 to capture this, just because we were having some heat advisories at that point in time as well. So I still have a little more editing to do with this. We'll be cobbling something together for them that goes a little longer, but it was nice to show to the broker, what happened with this build. Before we move on from that one, I want to pull up one more. And this is just, once again, I'm emphasizing, what are we looking at around these build sites? So, even the trees, these are much shorter trees in these areas. So normally the rooftops are over them, but everything around there is dry, even though we've got a lot of green going on here. The entire landscape is incredibly dry, so it is easy to kick off fires here in Prescott, or actually here in Arizona in general. So I just wanted to give you a feel for what I'm flying. What you're flying might be completely different. Maybe you're back up in New England and, a lot more days with a lot more moisture and not having to worry about this dry ground cover. But still, there are opportunities for extreme heat, even back on the East Coast or, in some of the northern states, that summertime temperatures can get excessive. So pay attention to your drones, pay attention to your drone batteries. Keep an eye on just the physical temperature of the drone as you're swapping batteries. And if you find that it's getting too hot, reschedule. That's my best suggestion. So I've already talked to the broker just before the weekend to let them know I was watching this really close. And if they do have new raw land sites for me, that we'll figure it out and we'll get those as morning flights. All right, so let's go ahead and shut this one down. And all right, we can also close up Sky Vector. And the next part of this today, hey Ray, how are you doing this morning? Good to see you. I don't know how many people are on channel right now. I've got that hidden. Let me just pull it up real quick. So just a couple of folks online. So good morning, everybody. I'm glad to have you along here. So if you missed the first part of this, we were just talking about drone temperatures. And now we're going to shift gears. So part of yesterday's conversation on our Zoom conference call was the release of Map Pilot Pro. It's been out for a little bit now. And for regular Map Pilot users, if you haven't opened up Map Pilot recently, you're going to get a warning from Map Pilot that it's my biggest flight issue is wind. Yeah, it's very flat and open where I am. Ray, that's the same issue here in Arizona, actually. When I get north of Granite Mountain, so the flight that I just showed is north of Granite Mountain. So when you start heading north, like you're going up to Kingman or something, extreme and excessive winds off of the north side of Granite Mountain. So while I'm getting some wind speed forecasts here in Prescott, I've noted every single time when we go out in the field that we're seeing a lot more wind getting north of Granite Mountain. And that's mountainous terrain does make its own weather, right? So I've also had flight issues out there, not just with the concerns for the temperature, but flight issues with blasting winds that we weren't even having here in Prescott. So I do check several different weather stations before we head up to this, but combine that ultra dry, the ultra dry ground cover with winds in the 30 to 40 mile an hour range, and it's a recipe for forest fires here in the Southwest. So anyways, on yesterday's Zoom conference call, we started talking about Map Pilot Pro, and I'm going to use this to segue into one other item as well. But so the regular Map Pilot for Business, they're going to stop supporting those. So if you haven't been on Map Pilot recently, you might not have seen the notification screen. Now, Map Pilot Pro does have three different versions. They've got a free version, which will probably suffice for a lot of people on this channel until you start growing your business out and wanting to do more construction and more construction progression and modeling examples. So I think testing out with the new Map Pilot Pro without all the other features, that's going to be all right. The base version, I believe, is $150 a year or $50 a month. I think that's very reasonable for what the application brings to the table. And let me see what else. I wanted to show you the supported aircraft because I do get a lot of questions. I get a lot of private comments and contacts from azdrone.net about, hey, does Litchi work with this? Does Map Pilot work with this? Does Ground Station Pro work with this? Does Drone Harmony work with this? And I want to suggest that you regularly keep tabs if you are using specific software packages, applications for doing your drone captures. I would highly recommend that before you upgrade to a new drone, you make sure that it's supported. So when we were talking yesterday on our Zoom conference call with the Patreon folks, I pointed out there's some new drones missing from this list. So here we are with Map Pilot Pro. So we got the Mavic Pro, the Air, the Mavic 2, the Phantom series. We're missing some of the minis and what is it, the Air 2. So some of the newer drones haven't been brought in under the Map Pilot umbrella yet. So one of the questions is, will they? And if the answer is yes, they're going to, then you just need to find out when that's going to be available to you. So if you run out and get one of the newer drones and you've got a set of expectations, I want to fly this with Ground Station Pro, I want to use Map Pilot, I want to use Drone Harmony, really, really need to double check and see if it's supported first. So I'm going to close this one down. But by the way, if you need to check back up on it, it's at dronesmadeeasy.com/map-pilot. So a very simple one to get to. And just showing you, I'm going to close down the Map Pilot here. And I went in for Ground Station Pro. I'm also an avid Ground Station Pro user as well. And we have our compatibility list here: Mavic 2 Enterprise, the Enterprise Dual, Mavic 2 Pro, the Zoom, the regular Mavic Pro, but we are missing some of the newest drones here once again. So if you're using Ground Station Pro and you want to go out and get the latest drone, double check these lists first. Just as one more example here, actually two more examples. I went into Litchi this morning just to double check. So here's Litchi's compatibility list as well. So Mavic 1 Mini, so they did get that one added where several of the other ones did not. They've got the Zoom and the Pro 2, the Air and the Pro, Phantom, but still we're missing some of the newest ones here. And then if we pop on over to Drone Harmony as well, they also have their listings, for what in the Phantom series and basic license, pro license, business license, or enterprise, but also, is this flyable? So there we go. We've got a couple in here that right now are not yet supported. So always check with your favorite app manufacturers before you run out and grab the latest app. So I'm going to minimize the chat window for a moment because the other thing that we did have a conversation about on yesterday's Zoom setup was the fact that I am currently in the process of redoing my Map Pilot class over on Teachable. So several months ago, we put up a new class, and that was on the standard Map Pilot for Business, and that was over on the Teachable site. And of course, now that we've got this upgrade and major change to MapPilot to MapPilot Pro, some things have changed. So I'm just going to open up right over here. Let's pop open one of the lesson pieces. So these are getting added to. So if you're already on the Teachable channel, if you've already signed up for this particular class, you'll be happy to know that you will be seeing new content. As a matter of fact, 4 new lectures already went up over this weekend. So introducing the new MapPilot Pro, and we're doing this right off the iPhone, doing a screen capture. So I just want to move this up for you. Number one, I just want you to take a look and see. So there are some changes if you're a normal MapPilot user. There are 2 additional buttons in here. So we've got our new missions, mission plan, settings. We've got a new data transfer option. We also have a quick map option, and then our file manager. We will be going through these things in the class, in the updated version of the class. For the short term, just to let you know, the old class material is going to be staying in there. It's its own lecture series. But as we move forward, once I get the whole new setup for MapPilot Pro, we will be removing the original class. So if you still have MapPilot or MapPilot for Business lying around, it's not going to be supported soon. So you're going to have to make a decision if you want to utilize the new MapPilot Pro and what package you want to use with them. In my case, I am going to be signing up for their basic package. So that was $50 a month or $150 a year. And I just also want you to see, while we're talking here, in the background, I've turned the volume down off on this for you. But this is part of the new class, so this is actually going through the new interface. The interface hasn't changed too much. They moved a couple buttons around, they added some things, they really didn't take anything away from us. So I really like seeing this when an app producer doesn't make it more difficult on us and actually takes into consideration some of our requests as users. So I love the new updated synchronization feature. I've already been testing that out. So I can set up one of my flights on any one of my devices. I've got an iPad mini, I've got an iPhone 8, and I've got an iPhone 8 Plus. If I set it up on the 8 Plus and sync it, it's going to be on those other 2 devices, which is great because just in case if I bring the wrong device with me, I still want to have that flight so that I don't have to drive all the way back to the office before doing a job for a client. As you can see here, I'm just going to hit a pause on this again. If you're already a MapPilot user, this looks very similar. One thing to note is they changed where we could update our altitude. That used to be over on the left-hand side. Now they've moved it under the main drop-down window. I like this. This is definitely an improvement in my mind. They also offer normal missions, grid missions, and a couple others. Depending on the package that you're getting from them, is going to determine which types of missions you have. Also on the mission overlap, they actually change overlap requirements depending on if you're on the free version, the base version, or the pro version. So a couple of little changes, but like I said, $150 a year for me, given how often I use this for my customers, it's a no-brainer. I have to have this with me. So if you're not already on our Teachable classes, you can go over to the Teachable site. It's down in the lower right-hand corner on the screen there. And if you already have signed up to the MapPilot series, then just know that you'll be seeing some new videos popping up there throughout this week. And hopefully we'll have the whole class revised by the end of next week. So definitely it'll be fully relaunched in July. But hopefully, if I don't have too many interruptions, we'll see it sooner. Let me check back down on the chat window here. New DJI drones may not be included due to them built around the Go app, not the Go 4 app. Yeah, the big thing, Ray, some of the time, so I've talked with several app creators at length. I've worked with some of the app creators as well. And there's a couple of dependencies. So when does the SDK software developers kit get released? What issues are going on? Are there issues with being able to load waypoints because of what platform they're using to control it? Like you were saying, the Go app versus the Go 4 app. One of the interesting things that I found, so not on MapPilot here, but DJI's Ground Station Pro it seems like they're kind of stuck and they haven't been doing any of the new DJI drones. So they've been kind of the same way for quite a while now. So if you're, I have an expectation as a DJI customer that, Ground Station Pro would support additional DJI drones, but right now I've seen for quite a while that that's not the case. So in the background while I'm talking about this, you can see I'm doing a quick search on Map Pilot. This is much easier to getting to the locations and blocking out locations for my flights. So I really do like that updated search that they've got there. Very impressive to me. So it got me right to the location where I did a flight just a couple days ago for my client. A couple of new build sites north of Prescott in the Talking Rock area and also in the Crossroads area. So this one is a much more developed development, but several of the other ones that we're flying are further out, like what we were showing on those flights earlier when we were talking about the temperatures. So in this particular lecture, I do take I'm going to just move through this. We actually do real world examples. We show you the setups, and you will also get to see the flights down the road for some of these, not all of them, because some of these raw land pieces might get snatched up in between our next visit out there. So we will do a couple of actual flights with Map Pilot Pro, and you'll get to see those. Fortunately, if you're already a Map Pilot user, I can tell you that the flights are very similar, so the automation hasn't really changed even with their updates. And let's just fast forward on through this a little bit more. And okay, just to let you know, as I was saying, you can do normal missions with the basic package, but when we start looking at wanting to do grid patterns, I clicked on grid, where that normal mission is, and since I'm on the free version, grid missions are not included, but I can get a preview. So it's kind enough to actually show me what my grid mission would look like. Let's go down here and drag this out. So there's what my grid mission would look like. I just can't fly that mission unless I'm on their basic package or pro package. But I do really like that Map Pilot has included showing us those other mission types. So here's what a line mission is looking like. So I appreciate that they can at least let me get an idea of what I'm missing out on if I'm just on the free version. So I would suggest if you're a Map Pilot user and you haven't downloaded Map Pilot Pro, go ahead and grab it and just take a look through it. And you'll notice, I mean, a lot of it's going to be extremely familiar to you. And the changes, I think, are all for the positive. So they also have spot check missions, sampling missions, and we'll be getting into those in the class, talking more in depth about those. And once you're ready and you save your mission, this was something interesting to me when I first set this mission up. It did not have this address for me. Now it actually put the address for me because I had long enough to get synced up with GPS. So it actually filled in the address of the location. And so I really like that. That makes my saved missions much more meaningful. Hold on one moment, please. Sorry, no, not only is it dry down here in Arizona, it's a dry throat going on there. So my apologies for that. So I just muted it for a moment. I think I muted it. I hope I didn't cough at anybody. So anyways, just rolling through this in the yesterday's Zoom meetup, we did spend some time talking about this, talking about some of the changes, talking about where the mission plans and the labeling of the missions plans get saved. So we did cover a lot of that, but there's still a lot more to talk about, and that's what that Teachable class is all about. So hop on over to Teachable, and I know that we do have a bunch of people already signed up on that class, so those of you who are on here right now, the new content is getting up there. We've already got 4 lectures for you, so go ahead and take a look at those, and I'm sure that just taking a look at those and already knowing Map Pilot well, you'll be off and running in no time. Let's go ahead and check back one more time to make sure that I haven't missed any other comments here. All right, so no, just Ray right there, and let's also double check that the stream is still looking good. Okay, excellent. So sorry about that. I regularly check these out as well. So we will be doing, this is going to be a shorter one today. Usually we run these a little longer. However, over the weekend, my Nissan Titan decided to leave transmission fluid all over the place in the driveway. Brought it in on Saturday to have it looked at. They thought they had everything taken care of, but apparently they didn't, because after bringing it home, it decided to let loose some more of the transmission fluid. So it was brought back to the shop yesterday. I'm actually waiting, or actually going to be heading over there afterward to see what they found and get things going again. So not only do we have the excessive heat going on here, where I'm not going to be doing afternoon flights right now, but we're also dealing with an automotive issue. And you know, you've got to keep your vehicles in tip-top shape if you're going out doing some of the strange locations that we fly, some of these remote raw land locations. So I've got to know that Nissan Titan's in a good way, because I don't want to get stuck out in the middle of the high desert. Some of the places that we visit for fun and for doing our own photography, like White Pocket up in the Vermillion Cliffs National Monument, that's several hours of off-road driving to get in there, and sometimes you get into strange sand dune areas. The last thing you want to do is have a vehicle maintenance issue while you're in a location like that, because you're really far from any of the closest aid at all. All right, let's go ahead and close this one down on Map Pilot there. So today's major topics, you know, drones and high temperatures. And for those of you who weren't here earlier, you can always do the replay on this one. We always get the replays up for the regular YouTube live streams on the same day. Usually it takes them a little while to compile it, something, you know, something behind the scenes with YouTube. But so once again, I would suggest going over to Drone DJ's site, give their article a read, and just keep in the back of your head when you're doing your flights what the temperatures are and where you're located, and if it could be a hazard with you doing your flights. One more thing, just as a review here, one more time. Like I said, I am not sponsored by AirData in any way, shape, or form. However, I do think that this is one of those must-have applications, so that you can track your drones, you can track your battery health, you can see your overall flight time, and if there's any issues with your batteries, you know, sensors, anything else. So they do offer a lot of information, even if you're on one of their lower end plans. I'm on the gold plan with them, and that was just my selection for the amount of flying that I do. So if you're not already an AirData user, I would say pop on over, give them a visit, and they do have a trial period, so check out that trial period. All right, everybody, I'm going to go deal with the headache of the motor vehicle. There will be another regular non-live stream video this week. I'm shooting for Wednesday or Thursday with some new announcements, some new information for our regular YouTube subscribers, as well as our patrons as well over on the Patreon channel. Thanks to everybody for supporting this channel. We're still growing just a little bit every day, and I like to see that growth, and I know that, you know, we've got a lot of interactions with the folks really interested here. So I'm glad to have you along, and I'm always hopeful that this information has been useful to you. So let me know if you have any other things that you'd like to know about, any other applications we should take a look at, or, you know, other things like Lightroom. That was the other thing we did this weekend. We had a question from one of our patrons with some major Lightroom questions. So we actually spent a good deal of time looking through a Lightroom catalog and getting some things imported and talking about, you know, how to recover missing images and how to avoid ever missing those images as well. So those things are also on replay over on the Patreon channel, so pop on by there if you'd like to see what we've been doing on the Zoom meetings and become a participant with them. All right, everyone, we'll see you again real soon. I hope you have a great start of the week. For those of us in the Southwest, stay cool, everybody. It's not going to last too long. I think it's only going to be like 5 or 6 days, and then we're going to start getting back down into the 80s again, which is fantastic. All right, everyone, we're going to wrap this one up here, and we'll see you again really soon. Have a great week.